consultation before I move on to student assignment? All right. So I emailed you it's kind of like a PowerPoint slide, an attachment that I'll be posting to our website, as well as that I'm allowed to do that now. I couldn't do it before because I had to wait for Dr. Polio to present it publicly. So now we have an opportunity to talk about it. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen and talk through a few things. I'm not going to be able to see you, I think. So if you want to ask a question, try the raise your hand function. I think that'll pop you up into my screen. And if not, then I'll try to reach back and talk with you a little bit to make sure that we're all on the same page with stuff. So this is. Let me get up to the top so I can share it. This is the document that I emailed you that was created by the company that was contracted to assist the district student assignment review committee. I participated on that committee for the past 2 years, and to my knowledge, I'll continue to be on it. So has the principal of Highland and the principal of Mazique. Since they were hired, they were involved in that committee as well. We were a consulting committee from us that included parents and community members and district personnel. That was one part of another part of the student assignment process that included cabinet level people who were actually making like more strategic recommendations about the impact of our recommendations. So our recommendations were more like mission and vision guided. These are the principles by which we want to make sure that a new student assignment process would be guiding the thinking and decision making. And you know, while I'm talking, if you want to be and kind of pull up that document on your own separately and be scrolling up and down, it might be a little more powerful for you or meaningful for you than the document that I'll be sharing with you through a shared screen. So the part that I played on that committee was again, like a consultant and talking through like, here are the things from a principal standpoint that we see that can help improve that process. And it looks like my screen's popping all around right now. So let me just go to a few specific things that I created this morning. Do you all, can I get a thumbs up that you see this screen with the colors on it? Okay. So this is I created a few different PDFs to do like a side-by-side comparison, because that one document was so kind of beefy. I thought this would help. Let me see if I can make it work now. There we go. So this is looking purely at the alignment between high school resides and the middle school resides. And this is the recommended proposal. And I'm just going to bounce back a little bit back and forth. So you see Atherton in the green there as the proposed student assignment plan would have us in this, what they're calling a contiguous. There's no longer a satellite. It's attached geographically in this shape here. And then Seneca and Wagner. And then the alignment with middle school, not going to be perfect, but it'll actually, our resides, I'm trying to be real slow here, boom. Our resides versus Highlands. Our resides, Highland. Our reside, Highland and Mazique. So you see how Atherton will be very well aligned with the Mazique and a significant portion, not all of them. It's not fair to say if you go to Highland, you go to Atherton, and it's not fair to say if you go to Mazique, you go to Atherton. But you'll see a large percentage of the students from Highland and Mazique would then be coming by resides area, coming to Atherton. And this is a good thing. It's not too much of a difference than what we already have for Atherton, but it's much better aligned for Highland and Mazique. So really the significant changes in student assignment really came through the middle school. That's where this next comparison will show you. So I'm going to move over here to middle school. And I'm doing this, I'm doing this comparison and discussion because I know we have so many families from Mazique and Highland from these areas that I think it's important for everyone to understand what changes are happening and why all the principals are really supporting it, because it makes a lot of sense. Look at this here. So here's Highlands resides. It actually expands out and loops all the way through like this around Mazique's reside, which is in green here. You know, I have no idea when that happened. I believe it happened maybe 10 plus years ago. Wow, I think that change happened here within the last decade or so. I don't know what it was like before, but the Student Assignment Committee wanted to have choice, but they also wanted to have predictability and a reasonable alignment, and as much as possible, predictability with regards to mid-high school movement. So watch this. This is what it currently is, and this is what it's projected or recommended. Let me move real slowly so it'll flip. Come on, where are you? Well, it's going to make me move pretty much further down. So you see what happened to Highlands resides, the part that looped all the way through the west side of I-65 here. It gets redistributed in a much simpler way. So I'm going to bounce back up here, and you'll see how what happens with the middle school assignment in the West End versus the middle school assignment of the West End versus in the recommended proposal. And what you see in this black area here is that dual resides study area for the dual resides recommendation for Shawnee High School. So I'm gonna do this back and forth just a little bit. You see that Mazique's area, if you just focus on the green, look what happens from there to there. I'm just gonna bounce back looking at that green for Mazique. Significant changes there for Mazique. And looking at the tan for Highland from there to there, tan to there, you see some significant changes as well. So really the student assignment resides recommendations have a significant impact on Highland and Mazique in order to create a better alignment between middle schools and high schools. That alignment, there's that discussion transfers to all the other schools in the district as well. I'm just focusing on our 3 schools because of our local shared community. And for that sake, I'm going to go ahead and just show you from a high school standpoint. This is what current resides zoning looks like for high schools. There's an Atherton resides area and then what they call a satellite area. And what I'm going to show you when I flip it down, you'll see that our resides will encompass, it's actually going to kind of piece together the gap here. And then so that we have what we call a contiguous area. So I'm going to move it down. If you watch just the green of Atherton and Atherton's satellite, you see how it looks like a pretty large area. I'm going to bounce back and forth. If you focus just on that green in the middle, it looks like you're picking up a whole lot of area in the middle. Truth be told, that's Cave Hill Cemetery. I think there's one student that lives in that area that's contained in this area, in that purple there. And then there's I just spoke with the executive director of Student Choice this morning to find out how many students live in this area. And so if you watch the green, how we pick up that so that we create this more contiguous, reasonable geographic location. It's actually a fairly small number of students. We're thinking it's more like in the less than 100 range, probably in the 50 range. There's a lot of businesses in this area. But you see how by doing that, Atherton's resides makes a lot more sense versus this broken up satellite areas. And if you look at it, what this looks like right here for high schools in general, for students who are living in the West End, and they're called for language purposes, we're calling this entire area in the black, outlined in black, as the west side of Louisville. It actually includes areas on the east side of I-65, but they're, if you call this West End area, look what it does. It much more simplifies, right? See between there and there, what it's doing within that study area. It's creating a lot more predictability, much fewer dissected areas that will create what we're hoping, we being a student assignment committee and as a district, we're hoping this will create more predictability, create more choice for students, because all students in this outlined black area, this black lined outlined area, can choose to go to the area. They can either go to Shawnee or go to a school that's designated through this color system, right? So they have a choice. They will always have that choice between those two schools. So if Shawnee, because of program options or location or connectivity with that school, are able to go to Shawnee by choice, or they can go to the schools that are otherwise designated in this area. So if you dig deeper into the proposal, you'll see that there are some predictability. They're projecting over the course of a few years potential changes in enrollment. Those changes in enrollment were based on a few estimates, and the estimates were that 50% of the students in this study area would be choosing to go to Shawnee, and 50% of students would be choosing to go to their otherwise choice school. I don't know that that'll be true or not. It may be higher for some schools and lower for others. It's purely, that'll be purely the family's choice. So that's one of those things where we're just going to have to kind of shift our mentality. And like me, when I'm looking at the numbers that are coming into Atherton, for me, and until we have rollover after the application process, it's kind of a guessing game to figure out exactly how many students will be coming to us. So we'll just have to kind of watch the feeder patterns and what that looks like in the future. But they are projecting Highland, Mazique, and Atherton to have lower numbers based on that assumption that 50% of students will choose to go to Shawnee versus coming to their otherwise assigned school. And all three of those schools have very strong magnet programs. So in talking with the principals of those schools, I don't think any of us are really worried that that'll have a significant detrimental impact on our projected enrollment or staffing allocation or anything else. We'll just adjust to it, and it'll be happening over the course of several years because this recommended proposal is being grandfathered in with not this coming year's, but the next year's incoming class for each of our schools. So it's really like a 4-year phase-in process. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. So I saw a hand come up. I'm not sure. Yep, Miss Favre. Oh, no, she got on the phone. Yeah, I'll catch you in a little bit. Anybody else want to? Is there anything I could clarify? Anything I said that I maybe need to go back and restate and clarify better?
I have a question. So that 50% number you mentioned, about 50% of students in that area would choose to go to Shawnee. Is that based off of like polling families, or like do you know where they came up with that number?
Yeah, Dr. Polio had mentioned that, and I feel like he said that they had done some polling through this. Throughout the last 2 years, we've done some surveying, and we've done a lot of surveying of our students and student populations, and district-wide as well as specific by geographic area, and doing an analysis to determine whether or not families were interested in this concept. So I think that number came from that projection, came from that surveying and parent feedback. But again, I think it's just we know that it's not going to be 0 and not going to be 100%. It's going to be somewhere in between. So 50 is probably your best bet to find that middle road.
And
so I know it's going to be grandfathered in with not the coming school year, but the year after that. So kids that are at Atherton or Mazique or Highland already, but they are in that in the West End area, will they be able to choose that too? Will they get the choice if they're already there but decide to want to go to Shawnee or Mazique or wherever?
All right, to make sure I answer accurately, let's say that we have a freshman who is in an area that will no longer be Atherton's resides.
Right.
Then my understanding is they would be grandfathered in, and they would be able to attend Atherton until they graduate. If someone would be coming in though, and they're not currently enrolled, then there isn't a there isn't a grandfathering in for people who aren't currently enrolled in those schools.
Okay.
And that's my understanding. I may not. I don't get to speak for the way maybe some of those more specific questions the district had asked, but that would meet that's my understanding, and that would also meet the philosophy behind the things we've discussed. That this transition would be supportive of students who are currently enrolled in schools to not disrupt their education.
Okay.
Yeah. Ms. Lucier, did you have another question?
I don't remember.
Ms. Anderson?
This makes a lot more sense for middle and high schools, but I'm just kind of curious, are the elementary kids from the West End still going to be bussed all over the district the way they have been?
That's not part of the discussion of the proposal that I'm aware of right now. That's something that we would have to wait for further district guidance on.
Okay, I was just kind of curious. We're still spreading out all the elementary kids, but keeping middle and high school more localized. I didn't know if elementaries were following suit.
Yeah, it's been a very complex discussion because so often the things we were talking about were very different. The impact and the concern about it was very different at elementary versus middle versus high, right? And I think the original stepping stone proposal was really about it's not a quick win, but the manageable strategies that could address significant change that were achievable in the very near future had to do with that middle and high school alignment. Now, I would also like to say that publicly that there is a much bigger picture issue here as well, and that is now that we are looking to fix the resides area with regards to student choice, We have very robust magnet programs, one of which Atherton is one of the biggest and strongest. That we have talked a lot about having much more consistency and alignment in magnet criteria, entrance criteria across schools, so that when we're talking about equity and establishing procedures and practices that will best align with the REAP protocol with the district, that will the magnet application process is a significant part of that. But honestly, until you deal with the resides, it's almost superficial to be dealing with the magnet criteria part of it. But I think once, if the board approves this recommendation, that the discussion about magnet schools and magnet criteria to get into schools at middle and high school levels will be a significant part of a student assignment recommendation in the future. I think that's very fair to say, and it's been a regular point of discussion of the committee for the last 2 years with regards to what is the best way to phase these things in to best address the inequities that we know exist and achieve our goals with regards to improving student assignment.
Okay, now ask my question, because when I had the question, you may not have answered it. You may have answered it when I was on the phone, sorry, with court. When is this supposedly going to go into effect?
If it's approved by the Board of Education, it would go into the effect of the 2021-2022 school year, not this coming school year, the next school year, and phased in through the incoming classes.
Okay, so not the kids that are already there at the school.
Right.
So not to move. Okay, just checking.
Yep, no, that's a good question, and that was
Atherton's not our home school to start off with, and it's even less of our home school with the new thing in it too. So.
Okay. Ms. Lucier.
Okay, so I remembered my question. A first mini question is, when is the next board meeting that they're going to be talking about this?
I do not know. I think that might have been in an email communication from the district, but I don't know.
Do you know so he talked about in that video about building 2 new middle schools in the West End. Do they have like the funding and the go ahead? Like if the board approves this plan, will they start construction on those schools? Like,
my understanding is, no, that's a great question. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because that's something I was hoping that I would have the opportunity and remember to say. And that is, when our community, when our Louisville community is looking at the tax increase that has been requested by our Board of Education, and promoted by the superintendent and the administration, the need to have capital funding is critical to addressing inequity and disproportionality and the concerns regarding race that we are facing. I'd say this is probably the perfect time for us to be investing in education to address the concerns that we have, that we acknowledge and see and are being proactive more so than ever to address. So I think of the new middle schools and the new high school that Dr. Polio had mentioned, and again, I was on the advisory committee. I'm not necessarily in the nitty-gritty of knowing exactly what that looked like, but I don't think those currently have like a phase in and how that would affect student assignment with our current proposal. I think the current proposal is, this is what we currently have and this is how we can improve it. The adding 2 middle schools and adding a high school in the West End, which would be the areas that we discussed earlier with that dark black outline around the city, really would be in addition to a way of improving even further that student assignment review recommendation. Does that make sense? But I think now more than ever, this over the last few weeks, you know, what we've been experiencing as a city, as a district, as a city, and as a country is emphasizing why our investment in education is going to be so critical at this stage, and why there is such extreme capital need within JCPS to be building more education buildings, more school buildings themselves. That's not a surprise. Like, we've known it all along. The past 2 years, that's been an element of the discussion. But we can't predict that we would have the funding to do that. It's something that has to go through that proper process. Ms. Foster-Terrell?
So just to make sure that we're all understanding this, so the new assignment plan that's starting with the next school year, not the coming one, but after that, is just the first step as of for right now until those 3 schools can be put into place in that study area. Is that correct? And then it might change again?
I can't speak to that.
Oh, okay.
I think what you said is, to my knowledge, that's accurate. You know,
okay. I mean, it's just to.
This idea. I know Dr. Polio had mentioned building new schools, and that's been a discussion of the Student Assignment Review Committee. But that's a separate element of the current proposal that's being proposed. Yeah. You know, I did want to share one more thing regarding specific to Atherton to be very transparent, because we will have not only some addition, we will also have some subtraction from our resides area. And I think it would be negligent on my part not to make sure that is explicitly explored. Explicitly explored. That's an interesting way to phrase it. Let me share this screen. All right, so this is something I've been working on this morning in preparation for our meeting. And what I did here is I took the image that I've already shown you once, the current resides alignment with Atherton, and then the projected. So you see the two, how those two areas change. You'll see that, you know, I couldn't quite get them. I mean, these were all kind of cut and paste images, so I couldn't quite get them exactly aligned. I put little triangles in here as like primers, as like orient yourself where things are. So there's a triangle. This is kind of that location right there at Bardstown Road and Eastern Parkway. And I put those triangles on all 4 of these locations to kind of help orient yourself around this map. So on the left-hand side, you see where Atherton would pick up these areas as designated right here. But you'll also see that it will be losing this area. When you come down here, that area disappears because it's being realigned with, I believe that's Westport. No, Wagner. You see Wagner's area. So, I talked a little bit about the number of students that would be in those geographic areas that are being picked up as new Atherton resides. I did try to kind of figure out how many students fell into this area. It's a little hard to determine. As you see, what I did right here, this is just a map I pulled off of one of our city websites on zip codes. And you'll see that this satellite area right here that we currently have aligns with this 40203 area right here, Shelby Park, I believe Mazique is right on one side or the other of this line right here. So we would be adding this area in yellow and this area in yellow here compared to this, what we currently have. And we would be losing this area that I highlighted. See, this area goes here, and that is lost here. I tried to figure out how many students does that impact. It's kind of hard because that's not just one zip code. That is a 40202 area. So any students who are attending Atherton through their resides, not on magnet, students in the 40202 area who are in Atherton on magnet through the IB program would continue to have that option. There's not an easy way to break that down, but what I did do is go into our JCPS data book. Looks like we have 29 students from the 40202 area. We have a whole bunch from the 40204 area. So this would likely affect a few dozen students who may or may not be here on magnet. So I'm not sure what kind of impact that would have, like projecting that out to the future of how many students we would no longer have attending. So what I tried to show here is where we're adding areas in these two yellow spots. This is Bardstown Road right here, Shelby Park, Tyler Park right here. And then we would be losing this area here, which is on the north side of East Broadway. So as Bardstown Road, right there at Cave Hill, you hang a left, that's East Broadway right here. And then so anything north of East Broadway would no longer be in Atherton resides, which we currently have as part of our resides as designated right there. And that's why I think they're projecting Atherton to lose like 100 students, working under the assumption that 50% of students in the target area, in the study area, and that would be this area right here. Shelby Park, East Breckenridge Street, this Mazique area, from I-65 all the way over to Cave Hill on the south side of East Broadway. If 50% of those students choose to go to Shawnee instead of Atherton, then we would experience a drop in numbers. Whether that 50% projection is reasonable for families in that area is really their choice. I hope that our school is a school that families will want to attend, and that they'll have a connectedness with our school, not only through our programs, but also through now a more reasonable geographic assignment. All right, I'm going to stop share, and that was really kind of the core of the things I wanted to present and talk about. Since this is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube, any of our families who are interested in learning more and kind of hearing it from my perspective. And I had, just so you know, the group that I was part of, principals and community members and parents, we had nothing to do with like actually looking at streets and counting numbers or anything like that. We were talking about what a student assignment process should place value on. And that's where the surveys came into play, and we helped develop the questions for the survey. Then we helped be part of the analysis of those data results. And I really feel like we've come up with a recommendation that'll be going before the board that'll have a big impact on addressing a lot of the concerns that arose over the last 2 years on inequities and that were resulting in disproportionality in our district with regards to the student assignment process. Now, I'm sure I've thoroughly bored you all, but I love this kind of stuff. You all know I'm a data guy, and I love to see how structures have big impacts on experiences for kids. And I'm just, you know, I'm standing behind this recommendation that these structures will have a big impact on the experience that kids will have in the future. It increases the amount of choice that students in the west end of Louisville will have regarding schools, and it will create a better sense of community, I think, among by geographic area among students with a school if they're choosing to go to one that's not to the closest to their home. Including, especially, I think this is beneficial for Atherton, the way it's added area that will make a more contiguous alignment with our resides.
I like that it's not a checkerboard anymore in that area where, you know, where it's all more consolidated and more of a connection. Because that was confusing. Looking at all of that, I'm like, what? So.
And I'm excited about the collegial, collaborative opportunities we'll have with Highland and Mazique, now that the majority of their students, not all, but most of their students will be coming to Atherton, or at least it's much clearer now what that student assignment resides looks like.
Yeah, there's great potential there.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Awesome. Well, then it's 45 minutes, so we'll say this is the conclusion of the special called meeting. And again, I don't expect us to have another special called meeting before July. So wish y'all the best. Stay safe, relax. You know, I'm gonna try to take a few days off each of the next few weeks to decompress myself. But still a lot of work to be done and a lot of excitement about. And I'm going to say it that way. It's excitement about what the fall will look like. And I know our staff, just like how we ended the school year, our staff's going to step it up and make the best with whatever is necessary to create a safe start to the school year and get kids re-engaged again. So thank you all. Stay safe.